Be'ez Hashem Yisborach, we begin Parak Shlishi, the third chapter in the Rambam's Hilchos Nedarim, the laws of vows in the Sefer Haflah, which in this parak the Rambam discusses the differences between a neder and a shvua. As the Rambam opens up Halacha Aleph regarding these differences. Says the Rambam, Arba Dvarim Yesh Bein Nedarim L'Shvuas Bitu. There are four differences between, although they sound similar, between that of the laws of Nedarim, of vows, and the oath of utterances, that of oaths, which are both essentially saying the same thing, that I promise, I swear, I take an oath, that I vow that this is what I'm going to do. There's four differences in their halachas. First of all, shebeshvuas bitui, regarding the oath of utterance, ein shvua chalal shvua. Halacha is that an oath cannot take effect on a previous oath. So let's say someone swore he's not going to eat this loaf of bread, and then he swears again he's not going to eat it, and he eats it. He's only reliable one, like the Rambam explained in Hilchos Shvuas in Parak Dal Halacha Tes. Whereas for Nedarim, but by vows, yochel neder al neder. A vow could take effect on a pre-existing vow, as Rambam is going to explain Halacha Beis. Second, hamatfis b'shvua. If someone grabs a hold regarding an oath where he hears his friend swearing, and he says, and I am like you, since he didn't enunciate the oath from his mouth, so actually Potter is going to be exempt. Whereas over Nedarim, chayv, but by vow is going to be liable, as Rambam is going to explain in Halacha Gimel. Third difference is, an oath of utterance only takes effect on something that is neutral, on something that, if let's say swears to, let's say, not to do a mitzvah, so then it doesn't take effect as shvuas bita, because you can't swear to nullify mitzvahs. Rambam says in Hilchos Shvuas Parakei. Whereas in the Nedarim chalas al divrei mitzvah k'divrei shus, whereas by a vow, it takes effect even on a mitzvah, like on something that's voluntary, as Rambam explained Halacha Vav. And the fourth difference is shvuas bita chal al davar sheish by mamish, v'al davar she'ein by mamish. Oath takes effect on something that has substance or that doesn't have substance, like for example regarding sleep or anything like speech that doesn't have a substance. An oath can take effect. When a darm, but a vow in chal al davar sheish by mamish only takes effect on something that has substance. As we continue Halacha Beis, Ram here explains the first difference regarding a vow taking effect on another vow. As Ram says, Ketzah yachol neder al neder. How is it possible? What's the case of a vow taking effect on another vow? If someone says, "Harei like carbon emachalti kikerzu," it's on me to bring a carbon to the base of Mikdash if I eat this loaf of bread. And again, "Harei like carbon emachlen," it's upon me to bring a carbon if I eat it. V'achol eats it. He's responsible. He's liable for each and every one that he took a vow, and anything similar to this that it's gonna take effect by specifically a neder again and again. Halacha Gimel, regarding the other difference of being matfis ben nedarim, says the Rambam, Ketzer matfis ben nedarim chayv. What's the case of that? If one does hatzvas, if one grabs a hold of something else to say that this is going to be the same thing for this, that by nedarim is going to be obligated. Let's say he hears his friend taking a neder, a vow, and he says, after he hears his friend, he says, "Vani kamais chanam like you," and he does this particularly deep in the amount of time that it takes for a student to tell his Rabbi Shlomo Rabbi, greeting his teacher. He's going to be forbidden in what his friend had made himself forbidden. Now, let's say Shama Shlishi Zeh Shama Vani. Let's say this third person hears that guy say "and me." Vaman, he says "Vani" and me and me. I feel how you may, even if it's 100 people, and each one said "and me," but within the amount of time it takes to say Shalom Lach Rabbi from the previous person, the all going to be forbidden. Again, that's a unique halacha to Nedarim versus that of Shavuos. Halacha Dal. So if someone says, this piece of meat is forbidden on me. Then, even if many days later, because here it's specific in contrast to that of vani, which is what's ani, it has to be with and take the dibur when it's one person to another person. But here, it's one object to another object. He says, and this bread should be like this meat. Okay, so this bread is now grabbed a hold of that same neder, and it's going to be forbidden too. Let's say goes and he says subsequently that this honey should be like this bread, and this wine should be like this honey. If it's 100 items, kul masrum, they're all going to be forbidden, because if someone's matfis in a neder, it has halacha like a neder. And what's the difference for many of these halachas to understand the difference between a neder and a shvu is because a neder is when you're making the object, it's in the cheptzah, you're making the object forbidden on the person. So it comes out that the isser is in the chayfetz, in the object. So when he says another object, let this object be like this one, so he's being matvis the second object to be like the first one, which the first one's aser. Conscious when you take an oath not to eat this loaf of bread. So the loaf of bread does not have any intrinsic prohibition to it. Just the one who took an oath made it forbidden on himself. What's known as the Issa Gav, it's forbidden on the person. So therefore, when he says in the second loaf, it should be like the first one, you didn't say anything. And even when he's saying to the friend, and I'm like you can't say there's hatfas over there where, just like him, he's forbidden, so too over here, because there's no noun on the person to say that he's like him. It's just in the action, and that's not something you could be matvis, and that's why by neder hatfasa will work in contrast to that of shvus. Halacha hey, harei shemes aviv oy rabbi hayam. If somebody had his father or his teacher passed away that day, v'nadar sheyatzem oisa hayam, and he took a vow that he's going to fast that day as a sign of mourning. V'tzam, and he fasted. Ula achar shalom, and many years later, he said, Harei yom zeh. He said, this day, some random day of the year, he says, should be Allah on him kayim shemes be'av rabbi, like the day that his father or his teacher passed away. So he's being matvis. Harei asur lechel b'klum. So that day is also going to be forbidden to eat anything. Shari hitvis yom zeh v'asori kiyama asur, because he did it fasa. On this day to be like the day that was forbidden, which that original day was a davar hanadar, because he took a vow not to fast on that day, and he's being matvis beneder, which makes that other thing also forbidden. And also anything that's similar to this, that the halacha of hatfas applies to the neder in contrast to a shvur. Now halacha above, the Rambam explains regarding the halacha that we said that a neder is different than a shvur, that it could take effect on the devar mitzvah. It says Rambam, how is this that we're saying that a vow would take effect on a thing related to a mitzvah, like something that's regarding something that's voluntary? So let's say someone says, he says the matzah on the Seder nights are forbidden on him, which again is in the Chavtzi, saying the object is forbidden. And that's also integral for understanding this halacha too. Let's say the sitting in the sukkah, on the end of sukkahs, that sukkah is forbidden to him. And he says that these tefillin are forbidden for him to put on. So they're forbidden to him. And if he eats the matzah, Yoshua sits in the sukkah and nutl, or he takes the tefillin, he's going to get lashes, anything similar to this type of halacha. And I'm to say regarding someone that says like carbon, it's upon me to bring a carbon and eat matzah on the Seder night. Because why wouldn't he be obligated in that carbon? Anything that's similar to that. Now, explains the Rambam Now, he's explaining now the underpinning theory which we had mentioned before, which relates to many of the discrepancies between Nedarim and Shvus. Why is it that a vow takes effect in the mitzvah? So Shvus in Hilchos mitzvah, and an oath doesn't take effect. What's the difference? They're both similar ideas. So the reason is when someone takes an oath, he makes himself forbidden on the item that he's taking the oath on. Whereas the vow, that he's making that object forbidden on him. So Nimtza comes out, someone swears he's gonna nullify mitzvah. He's trying to make himself forbidden, but you can't. He's already had taken an oath from Har Sinai, so he can't uproot his obligation to do the mitzvahs. And the shvu chala shvu, and the fact that he's taking a new shvu cannot take effect on the pre-existing shvu, because shvu's bita only takes effect on dvar rishus and not on something that you're already obligated to. So therefore, it's ineffective. Whereas when someone makes this object forbidden as a vow, this object becomes forbidden, and you cannot feed to a person something that's forbidden to him. And that object did not have an oath from Har Sinai, you the person, but this object is now forbidden to you, and therefore the neder will take effect on the Dvar Mitzvah. Now, halacha ches says Ram ukshatim is bainim akasav. Now, when you contemplate the psukim, Timsa, you find shadvar marin kain kamesha bekibla chacham and peyashbo, that actually a precise reading of the words, the verses, actually illustrates the tradition that we have that to interpret this halacha like this. Because the wording is by the oath of the utterances, by shvuas, says lahara lahetiv, to do better, to do good. Which that's a bedivri shus, that's regarding voluntary purposes. Like we had explained this in Hilchos Shvut Parakeh halacha tezayin, where if you want, you could do it. If you want, you don't have to do it. You could do good or bad. Which that's only regarding something that's voluntary, not a mitzvah. Which sheyechel v'yishta hayoim, to eat or drink today, or shiyatim at the fast, or kibbutz, and things like that. And again, but not by dvar mitzvah. In contrast, but the Dharma, but the laws of vows, it says in Bamidbar, whatever comes out of his mouth, he has to do. It doesn't differentiate if it's Dvar Mitzvah. It doesn't say only Lahar Lahatim. Sounds like it could even take effect, as we're saying, on the Dvar Mitzvah. Halacha tes. If someone takes a vow that he's going to fast on Shabbos or Yom Tov, which on those days there's a mitzvah to have pleasure and it's biblically forbidden to fast. So Chayiv Lotzim, he has to fast, again, like we said, to fulfill his vow, because the vows take effect on the mitzvah when the vow is by not doing something, what's called Shev Al Tasa. Like explained in Halacha Vav. Let's say someone took a vow that he's going to fast every Sunday and Tuesday his whole life. And now it turns out that Sunday or Tuesday is a Yom Tov or the day before Yom Kippur, which are days that are forbidden to fast, are mitzvahs to eat. He has to fast. Again, because the neder will take effect on the Dvar mitzvah. And although that's somewhat of a Yom Tov, it's definitely lesser than those two. Now, but let's say Poga by Chanukah Purim, let's say that Sunday, Tuesday falls out on Chanukah Purim, that actually, and these are rabbinic Yom Tovim, actually we will reject, will override his vow because of the Yom Tovim of these 2 days. And the reason is, since the prohibition to fast in those days are only rabbinic, they actually need to be more supported because only rabbinic law, people might be lax in them. And we actually override his vow because of the rabbinic decree. And we say that although generally Chacham cannot be but when there's reasoning, then they actually could go ahead as in such a situation where for the halacha of the Chanukah Purim, we will override his neder and he actually will not fast on those days. Now, Halacha Yud Rambam continues regarding the difference between Neder and Shavuos regarding Davar She'ein Behem Mamish, regarding something that does not have a substance. Ketzad Ein HaNedar Mechalam, how is it that we're saying that a vow only takes effect, Ela Davar Sheyesh Behem Mamish, in contrast to Shavuos? It's only something that has substance. And we said that Shavuos is both yes or not. So, the case is, if someone says, Diburi Alecha Carbon, my speech on you is forbidden as a carbon. Ein Hasham Al He's not forbidden to speak with him. Because speech has no substance, and like we said, because a neder makes the object forbidden on the person. Something that doesn't have substance, you cannot make that prohibited. In contrast to a shvu, which is on the person, you can make yourself forbidden to do something. Let's say he tells him, "Diburi asa alecha, my speech is forbidden on you." It's not like a guy who says, my produce is forbidden on you. My produce is like a carbon on you. Which that would make it forbidden on the person, like the Rambam says in Perak Aleph Halacha Zayin. Rather, there's no substance, so there's nothing to make prohibited. Therefore, if someone says to his friend, carbon like a carbon, which is a terminology of taking a vow, that I'm not going to speak with you, or I'm not going to do something with you, I'm not going to go with you. Or he says, carbon she'eni yashin, I take a carbon that I'm not going to sleep, I'm not going to speak, I'm not going to walk. Or he tells his wife, carbon she'eni meshamshich, I like by that of a carbon that I'm not going to serve you, I'm not going to have a relations with you. So actually, the vow does not take effect in all these different situations. It's like he's saying, Diburi, my speech, Viluchi, my traveling, Vasiyasi, my doing, Vishimushi, and my intimacy is carbon. Which like we said, these are things that don't have substance, and therefore the neder cannot take effect because it has to be in the chefts, in the object, and there is no object over here in these cases. They're verbs, not nouns. As we continue, halacha yud aleph, but let's say he says, Ye'aser pila diburoi. If one looks at the words, says that, let my mouth be forbidden for its speech. So there is an object over here, the mouth. And my hands for their actions. And my feet for their traveling. And my eyes for their sleep. And then the vow is going to take effect on the mouth, which has substance in all those other cases. Therefore, if someone tells to his friend, my mouth is a carbon from speaking with you. My hands from doing with you. My feet from walking with you. Then he's going to be forbidden. It's like as if he said that my mouth is forbidden for its speech, because since you could explain that's what he means to say, and we say stam adar malachmer, so that's what we mean. That's what he means to say, which the neder could be chal, which could take effect on that object of his mouth and all those other examples. If someone says harei like carbon, it's upon me an obligation of being a carbon. If I speak with that person, or if I don't speak with them, And he violates whatever it is that whichever one he said, so Chai b'Karbon, he's going to be obligated in the carbon. And although he made it dependent on something that doesn't have substance, which is speaking or whatever it is, but he's obligated for himself to bring a carbon, which the carbon is something that is a substantive thing. He took a vow that he says, dibarti. In other words, if I speak today with that person, I'm going to have to bring a carbon. Or beloy dibarti. Or if I don't speak with that person. Or whatever, and something similar to that. These are not prohibitions, vows of prohibition, which we're speaking about here in these halachas of Hilchos Nedarim, which, those are things that only take effect on something that have substance. These are examples of vows of hektish, which a person could become obligated through his vow, and the stipulations of the laws of nidre isur do not apply to nidre hektish, and again, therefore, he would be obligated in his vow. If someone takes a vow regarding something that has no substance and he's making it forbidden, so although, like we said previously, that the vow does not take effect on them, but a rule that the person should treat it as if it's permissible, since he did make it forbidden himself, and his intention was that the vow should take effect on them, rather we find an opening for him of regret or whatever from some other place, and then that's how we permit his vow, because although it did not become forbidden, we do this that they shouldn't act lightheaded by taking vows, and to show the stringency, we require some other way out, not by just saying, oh, you didn't do anything, because that will create a certain laxity regarding the laws of Nedarim in general.